Warning, this podcast contains violence, sexuality, gore, and other horrible and disturbing things. Listener discretion is advised. Also, the hosts of this venture are ignorant dipshits, so please do not take anything they say as fact. And enjoy the show.
Now, are you sitting comfortably? Good. Then we'll begin.
Today we had 15 homicides and 63 violent crimes, as if that's the way it's supposed to be.
The atoms in your left hand probably came from a different star than your right hand.
It is our basic human right to be fuck-up.
A second plane now has crashed into the other tower of the World Trade Center.
Putting chemicals in the water that turn the friggin' frogs gay.
The defendant shall be incarcerated for the rest of her natural life with no possibility of parole.
You are not machines. You are not cattle. You are men.
We were somewhere around Barstow, on the edge of the desert, when the drugs began to take hold.
Occultae Veritatis.
Hello, occultists, and welcome back to Occultae Veritatis podcast. My name is Leon Filger, along with
Sageberry!
Ood Gallifrey.
And in studio with us,
Steph! Again!
Hooray!
Woo!
It's her second appearance. We didn't kick her out the first time.
It's exciting. You are welcome.
Yeah. Antarctica is fucking huge. It's twice the size of Australia. Yeah. It differs from Australia in that it doesn't have kangaroos, which is shitty, but it also doesn't have 40 fucking species of venomous fucking spiders. It does, however, have 7 species of penguins, none of which are venomous and all of which are cute.
Yeah. So they're poisonous, like you can't lick them and shit.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's also technically a desert. So today on Occultae Veritatis podcast, we're going to talk all about Earth's coldest continent, but first, let's warm our bellies with a little poison.
Poison.
So, what's your poison?
Steph, you want to introduce?
Yes. Excuse me. I brought a naked grape Pinot Grigio today. Yes. It's, I don't know. Okay, guys.
It's underwhelming. It's white. It's a white wine and it's pretty sweet.
It was cheapish. No. It's fruity-ish, but it's not like on the point of Moscato where you feel like you're just drinking fucking juice.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, have at her.
Sweet.
Thanks, Steph. It was nice of you.
Hey, no
To
problem.
bring that.
Yes, thank you. Yes. I'm glad.
Also,
I'm really proud of myself for pouring the Coke without spilling
But you
any of it.
didn't spill a fucking
I didn't
drop.
spill a drop, and I can't spill it. I spill everything. Like, I can't pour.
I was impressed.
Thanks.
This is a screw cap. We're safer this time.
Yes, yeah.
Because even though the last episode we recorded, I actually broke the cork in half while I tried to extract it.
It was
Sage
funny.
made fun of me.
I did.
And then I fixed it by just drilling in a little harder.
There you go.
That's what she said. Yay! That's what she said. That's what she said. I only ever buy screw tops because, one, I drink my wine in bed generally, and I don't want to have to go upstairs and, do the whole thing. So.
Buy a box, bitch.
Oh my God, that would be very clever too.
Cheaper.
Boxes, I don't buy boxes because my father was an alcoholic.
I worry about how quickly I would go through them.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
That's okay.
Because I'll buy a bottle for
Here.
podcasting, and then I'll find some way of either podcasting got canceled or we got money in the liquor budget for something.
Yeah.
And so the red wine that I bought for us, I drink at home, and it just goes down a little bit too quick, and that's what makes me
And
nervous.
then all of a sudden you're like, oh.
Because I'm like, should I be holding my baby right now after I've had this much wine? I don't know.
The secret is to get bigger wine glasses and fill them just fill them a little bit because you feel like you're drinking more.
Yeah.
But you're actually, and then just sip it and just put a little tiny squirt every time.
I don't know.
Clever.
If I make a pot of coffee, I'll drink that all day. I feel like if I open a box of wine, I'll be drinking that all day too.
I've been drinking beer all day.
There you go.
I've gone camping where I've personally sucked back a box a day.
That's
It's not hard, and it's not hard to do, and
No.
not even the box, but people at work, I'll be like, yeah, last night I had a bottle of wine. They're like, you had a whole bottle?
It's
I'm
4
like, are you
glasses of wine.
fucking kidding me? It's literally maybe 3. I do pour them very big.
Yeah.
But fuck off.
Okay,
Sorry.
Sage, what do you rate this?
It's good.
Yeah.
Is that a 5 out of 10 good or an 8 out of 10 good or? I'm feeling this good.
I'm not usually a white wine drinker. I usually drink red wine, but every so often a white wine's nice, and this is nice. So it's good.
I will give this 17. No, we're not
That was
doing
for the last
cerebral
one.
palsies anymore. I will do Actually,
Penguins?
skip me. I'm still thinking. Ood, what do you think?
I don't know. I'm liking this white wine a lot more than I did the red. I don't know. I think it's because it's more like a cooler, and I am like a basic bitch on the inside. Yeah, so I'm gonna give this a 6 out of 10.
I'm going 6.527.
I'm going to give it 3 Augusto Pinochets.
Ooh.
Out of a Manuel Noriega.
Okay.
A Fidel Castro.
Yeah.
Oh.
And a Jean Chrétien.
Oh.
It's an interesting...
I'm just trying to like figure out in my head how to rate that.
Yeah.
Out of, I don't think I put in the denominator.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Out of 17,943 Robert Mugabe's second cousins. And he's a fucking asshole.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
When people come to Antarctica, it's not uncommon for them to feel like it is a dream. When you ask someone, describe your experience. What is it like to be here? They'll say things like, is this real? For the first couple of days, everything is vivid. You're visiting an area that is equally marine and mountain. And this creates an incredible experience as well as an incredible natural dynamic to witness. As you sit in a zodiac, floating at sea, near seals, near penguins, ice in almost every direction, giving that feeling of pure wilderness. As a traveler, maybe you do research on what it is like to be in Antarctica. You learn about a few sites, wildlife, history.
And you've got to leave the ship.
And it begins to build your frame of reference about this place. And then you get here. It's so brilliant that those pieces of information that you gathered are completely washed over by the immediacy of the experience of being here. The cold on your face, the unbelievable visual features of the landscape, how the ice seems to be lit from within. One thing that people who visit Antarctica are left with is a desire to return to that experience, to return to that feeling of being close to something so wild, even at its most raw and severe moments. To be encompassed and surrounded by something that is ultimately so majestic and beautiful, to be taken away with it.
So it's not exactly clear who discovered Antarctica. Do you remember we're covering Antarctica today?
Yeah,
I'd forgotten.
We talked about it.
I did.
It was first theorized in the 1st century CE, but no one actually laid eyes on it until 1820, when it was allegedly simultaneously spotted by crews of an American ship, a British ship, and a Russian ship.
Yeah.
Imagine that.
Although unsurprisingly, each crew claims to have seen it first.
Were they like part of a convoy, or was it?
No, they were just dicking around.
Well, fuck.
They're hunting whales, I think.
What a bunch of dicks.
Yeah.
We just read Moby Dick for book club, and it was so good.
Great.
Was it as big as they say?
Moby's dick?
Yeah, Moby's dick.
I have not seen Moby's Dick. Maybe it was a picture.
Okay, there's not the picture.
Probably on.
Yeah. No one set foot on the continent until 1895, when the first recorded and confirmed landing was made at Cape Adair, Antarctica's most northeasternmost peninsula, by a Norwegian-Swedish whaling ship, Antarctic.
And if you're looking at Antarctica from above, that's the little tail part.
It's the
of
tail.
Dick. Yeah.
It's the tail. Yeah, it faces Argentina.
Moby's dick is a porno book.
Of course it is.
Sweet. Is it about the R&B artist?
No.
Okay.
No. The first successful expedition to the pole, which is 1,000 miles inland, arrived at the pole December 14th, 1911.
Ooh, it's also an Urban Dictionary.
For fuck's sake.
Sorry. When masturbating so hard, your dick turns various shades of light to dark gray, blue, and black.
Jesus.
A Moby Dick. That's so good.
See, and I've never had that because my arm tires to the point of exhaustion before I get to that point.
How much do you need to jack off until your dick is black?
That's
Not
gross.
black, but blue.
Dark blue.
Yeah.
The first successful expedition to the South Pole, which is 1,000 miles inland, arrived at the pole December 14th, 1911. It was led by Norwegian polar explorer Norwegian polar explorer. You don't have to cut this. I'm just drunk. Roald Amundsen. A British explorer, Robert Scott, attempted the South Pole trek at the same time as Amundsen, but was less successful. His expedition group arrived at the pole a month after Amundsen, and his entire party froze to death on the walk back to shore.
Jesus.
Oh, shit.
So that's what you declare a failure.
Yeah.
He made it there, but did not make it back.
And fuck, 1,000 miles in a road trip is a long way. Like, on foot, like, just with your bare essentials, on the coldest place on Earth?
Yeah, like
Fuck.
they had cross-country skis. And they were towing sleds behind each one of them.
Oh my God.
In 1911, when, like, the treatment for frostbite was, like, cut it off 100%.
There remains controversy around the Scott.
Controversy?
Oh, fuck you.
That was so good. You were on
That's
it.
because I always make fun of him how he says it because it's wrong.
It's fitting that this this episode is ice cold.
You guys are dicks.
You love us.
There remains controversy around why the Scott expedition failed and who was responsible. I blame that it's fucking Antarctica and it's cold as fuck.
Yeah.
Like minus 98 degrees Celsius, cold as fuck.
Yeah, especially in
That's
1911.
Yeah, that's negative 144 Fahrenheit for our American listeners who haven't converted to the rest of the fucking world yet.
Holy shit.
Celsius is the way to go.
Yeah.
Why Celsius? Because water fucking freezes below zero and boils at 100. That's why.
Just makes sense.
Crazy ass shit Fahrenheit.
Yeah. Plus, you don't have to convert every time you watch a TV program.
Yeah, so the warning on Antarctica is the same as it was for our Mount Everest episode. You might fucking freeze to death.
Yeah.
To eliminate the possibility of freezing the fuck to death, don't fucking come here.
Yeah.
Fair.
Right. So who owns Antarctica? The answer is not terribly clear. Under the Antarctic Treaty System, Antarctica is defined as all land and ice shelves south of 60 degrees south. The treaty was signed by 12 countries, including the Soviet Union, later Russia, the United Kingdom, Argentina, Chile, Australia, and the United States. It set aside Antarctica as a scientific preserve, established freedom of scientific investigation and environmental protection. The Antarctic Treaty also prohibits any military activity in Antarctica, including the establishment of military bases and fortifications, military maneuvers, and weapons testing. Military personnel or equipment are permitted for scientific research or other peaceful purposes, and the treaties were first signed during the Cold War. And the treaties are somewhat fluid, as the United States, South Africa, Peru, Argentina, the UK, Russia, Norway, Australia, New Zealand, and France all claim ownership to some part of the continent. So what use is Antarctica? And why am I doing an episode on it? And the answer is science.
Yay!
Woo! Science.
Science!
Yeah. And, I'm not surprised that Russia and all those countries signed that agreement, because, Antarctica doesn't really have, military there's no advantage to having it militarily controlled like the North Pole. Like, with the North Pole, if Russia owned the North Pole, they could do flyovers to the North Pole all day long. Like, it's much more of a hotbed area because they can just fly over the North Pole.
The Argentinians got rather nervous during the Falklands War, though, when the Brits had established claim to that little tail of Antarctica, where they could launch Harrier attacks from Antarctica, where they weren't allowed to be, and bomb the Falkland Islands.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
Jesus.
They didn't necessarily maybe sort of didn't do that. We don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a no-go. Everyone says don't militarize Antarctica.
Yeah. There's a lot of military agreements that are in the gray area of happened or not.
Right. So on the science, there's 80 active research stations on Antarctica all over the place, including the Amundsen Scott Station at the South Pole.
Nice.
The population of the continent varies from 1,000 to 4,000 people depending on the season.
That's more than I thought, actually.
They're all scientists, and they fuck.
Oh, probably.
They do.
And they fuck.
But you'd have to.
You would have to.
What are you going to do out there? You're bored.
You
probably
gotta
can't
fuck.
get Netflix or fucking Wi-Fi.
It's cold. You
so
can't
just-
leave your house.
Yeah.
Everybody snuggle in like big orgy time.
Everyone's fucking.
Orgy town.
Everyone's fucking.
Yeah.
If you've like dug up the diaries of every South Pole, before there were any women there, the dudes were still fucking. They were straight, just bored.
Oh, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's something in the northern countries called winter frenzy, where everybody's stuck indoors and they fuck more, and that's year round in Antarctica.
Yes, it's all the fucking time.
Yeah.
Anyway, so there's a place I wanted to touch on this briefly because I like the word Vostok,
okay,
which is the Russian word for east. Because Richard Bigley, our friend Richard Bigley, if he ever had a son, he was going to name him Vostok.
Oh, that's badass. Actually.
Word for east. I don't know why he wanted to do that. He was high and drunk when he told me that.
That's a sexy name.
It is a Vostok.
Yeah.
So Vostok Station, which literally means Station East, is a Russian research station in inland Princess Elizabeth Land, Antarctica. Founded by the Soviet Union in 1957, the station lies at the southern pole of cold. Now, this is like a pole of cold. This is like a frozen glass dildo in your deep freeze.
Pole of cold.
Pole of cold, with the lowest reliably measured natural temperature on Earth at negative 89 degrees, 0.2 Celsius.
Holy fuck.
Wow. Which is, for people who still don't do their shit, 128.6 degrees below 0 Fahrenheit.
Like that's too cold. That's if you spit, it's frozen before you hit the ground.
It's really fucking cold. Like, it's still warm enough to fuck, but colder to do anything else.
That's like frostbite in 60 seconds kind of shit.
Yeah, faster than 60 seconds. Like, you piss, it's like merely grazed your frenulum by the time. And guess what I found out because I'm a dad?
Oh no.
The male human body has got 2 frenulums. Mm-hmm. One is that bit that joins the upper lip to your gums, and the other is a bit that anchors your foreskin to the head of your penis on the bottom
that's what that
side.
is.
It's called a frenulum.
Did I lose that when I got circumcised?
Yes, you did.
Oh no.
That piece, there's
a tiny little vein that runs through it and like holds the underside of the...
Super disconcerting. It reminds me of like when you're cutting a chicken breast. Yeah, that's what it makes me think of.
Try owning one. It freaks me out every time.
Grossed out.
I'm happy because when I jerk off and I look down, I just see the upper aspect of my penis and can't tell there's a frenulum.
You don't have to see the frenulum.
Yeah. I mean, the real champ is Mrs. Leon Filger, who's diving for that and actually sees that as the first thing, and is still like, I'd put that in my mouth.
She's got to put that to the back of her head, and she's just got to do her job.
She's a trooper.
You just got to put your tongue on it and try to disconnect your brain from your tongue.
I'd be so scared of getting that caught on something, like a little vein, a little vein of skin.
Yeah, it's dicey. Like, you want to watch out in the zipper. Like, personally, the bisexual side of me, like, I don't like fucking dudes in the ass. I don't like getting fucked in the ass, but like a penis in my mouth is a really pleasurable thing.
Yeah.
I obviously am never going to do it again because I'm completely faithful and happy to Mrs. Leon Filger. Yeah. But in the past, a dick in the mouth is one of the finest things I could possibly do.
You know what, like, I'm pretty straight, but like I can see like how it might be fun. Like, you have a lot to work with. You can be dynamic and enthusiastic about it.
Well, it's because like I would give blowjobs the way I would want blowjobs. Now, even like the best female blowjob I've ever had still pales in comparison to a dude sucking my dick.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, they know what you want. That's why.
Because you don't have to
woman.
Exactly. Like, you don't have to communicate verbally with a dude sucking your dick. You have to tell a woman like, yeah, more of that, less of that. Unless like she's either A, like naturally perfect at it, which she's not, or B, is like really cool with you and opening to improving.
Yeah.
But a dude will suck it right every time.
Suck it how he wants it sucked.
Yeah, exactly.
Leon Filger, Occultae Veritatis podcast. A dude will suck it right every time.
Suck it right every time.
ovfeedback@gmail.com.
Okay, so
tips and tricks.
The Vostok Station research includes ice core drilling and magnetometry, which I don't know what the fuck that is, something with magnets.
I believe they're measuring, like, you know how the North...
I know what they're measuring. They're measuring the Van Allen belts in the ionosphere. I know what it is.
I'm sorry, Leon. I underestimated you.
They look at ions that are coming from the sun. Okay, so the Amundsen Scott Research Station sits at the South Pole and is used for Earth, atmospheric, environmental, and space observations. It's fucking sick, and I love it.
Cool.
About 30 countries maintain about 70 research stations, which are 40 year-round or permanent, 30 summer only throughout Antarctica. And the Amundsen Scott is the biggest one. Second to McMurdo Station, which is a kind of shitty station that's on the ass edge of Antarctica, but it's not really that cold, so it's kind of the pussy place to be. Amundsen Scott is where it's at.
You hear that, researchers? If you're at that station, you're a wuss.
You're a fucking wuss.
OVPod.
So I wanted to tell you, like, I had said Amundsen Scott or the South Pole is fucking cold as fuck. I've got some numbers in front of me. You ready for this?
I'm ready.
I was born ready.
Okay, so in the midst of July, June and July, which is the Antarctic winter,
Oh.
Because they're the opposite from us in the northern hemisphere.
Gross.
The lowest recorded temperature at the South Pole was negative 82.8 degrees Celsius.
Holy shit.
Gross.
Right? The average high during the Antarctic summer is negative 26.
Wow.
And the hottest it has ever been at the South Pole is negative 12.3, which is what it is like right now.
That's
and
warm
it's
as
cold.
hell.
Yeah.
Holy fuck. Those poor penguins.
Can you
I know.
imagine? You know when you go outside and it's minus 40 here, and as soon as you breathe in through your nose, you can feel your nose hairs and everything.
Everything freezes.
Frozen together. What would happen? Like would your whole fucking nose just freeze shut?
No,
and you can't
it's
breathe?
like Antarctica. They've got to wear full like
You can't
mummy
go
suits.
out with.
You can't go out without a visor on. Your eyeballs will freeze.
Jesus.
Wow,
It's
that's
fucking cold.
aggressive.
Like, what do you do but fuck?
Yeah.
At that time.
And research, I guess. I mean, I don't know, and like see a penguin every now and then.
I don't even know. There's no penguins at the South Pole. Even they're like too fucking cold.
Yeah. They're more around the edges where
They're
they can
around the
reach the
edges.
fish and shit.
Yep.
Yeah.
They're not woke enough to be at the South Pole. What does woke mean?
Like your eyes are open to, you're woke to like the situation around you. I don't know.
So you're,
This is what I'm assuming. This is what the kid. Yes, you're enlightened.
Yeah.
So it's a good
word.
thing.
Yeah, that's what kids say, right?
So the penguins are too woke to be at the South Pole. That's an
They're
accurate
way
statement.
too woke to fucking walk over there.
Great.
They're like,
Waddle.
shit's cold, yo.
All right.
Gonna live near the ocean.
This is the winter of the South Pole. The temperature is 70 degrees below zero, and winds reach a velocity speed of 47 meters per second. Above 300 kilometers of the ocean is also frozen. This is a time when most living creatures leave this land, but there is a wildlife species that has eagerly waited for this bitter cold. They are the emperor penguins. The fully grown emperor penguins are 1 meter tall. They weigh up to 40 kilograms. They are the largest penguin species. It's April, and the sound of whimpering breaks the silence of this frozen land. The whimpering is followed by first steps. The astonishing journey of the emperor penguin has just begun. The 220,000 pairs of penguins all over the South Pole are simultaneously marching towards the 35 mating areas in the South Pole. It's sometimes faster for them to crawl rather than walk. It takes up less of their energy too. It's a journey that covers a massive 150 kilometers in length. Even the most bitter snowstorm cannot prevent them from their instinct to breed. It's May. After a month of a difficult journey, the emperor penguins arrive at their hometowns. The ice cliff protects them from the harsh winds. This is a safe breeding area for them. When the sun sets and the ocean freezes, the female penguins leave their eggs to the male penguins and leave for the ocean to fill their stomachs. The male penguins are left behind at the coldest place on Earth. The male penguins each have an egg in their abdomen pocket, and they embrace one another for warmth. They must endure the bitter cold and snowstorm for 72 days. They must do this without eating anything.
So during the Antarctic summer, the station population is typically around 150. Most personnel leave by the middle of February because it gets fucking cold.
Oh, yeah.
Leaving about 45 winter overs, mostly support staff, plus a few scientists who keep the station functional through the months of the Antarctic night and fuck.
And stay alive.
And they fuck.
And they fuck. Yeah.
The winter personnel are isolated between mid-February and late October. Wintering over presents notorious dangers and stresses as the station population is almost totally isolated and sexually transmitted diseases are rampant.
You don't say.
No. The station is completely self-sufficient during the winter, powered by 3 generators running on JP-8 jet fuel, which is awesome because the planes that fly in there also run on JP-8.
Oh, there
so
you go.
like any engine they have running anywhere in Antarctica works on JP8 jet fuel, which is the most common jet fuel in the world.
Oh, fuck yeah.
It's the NATO standard. It's what Canada's CF-18s run. It's everywhere.
Yeah, and it probably burns hot and quick, like most jet fuel.
That's what she said.
Yeah.
Glad you're killing it, right?
So in addition to JP8 fuel and all this other shit, they have an annual tradition. It's kind of like Christmas, except it's in July. The tradition is the back-to-back viewing of The Thing from Another World, a 1951 film, The Thing from 1982, and The Thing from 2011, after the last flight is left for the winter.
Oh, man. And The Thing is a classic, like, Antarctica horror movie. It may be the only classic Antarctica horror movie and all that.
Yeah.
So it's an apt thing to watch.
It is. I would like to watch it.
Yeah.
I want to tell a really quick story about why I was totally stoked to do Antarctica.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ood, what is in a little bottle in the shelf behind your right arm?
Homeopathic coffee.
No, next to it. The glass bottle.
Your
of
dead
powder.
dad.
My dead dad.
Yes. Your dad's ashes.
My dad's ashes.
Yes.
I like dead dad better.
Yeah, for those of you who don't know, we have a creepy shit cupboard in our studio, and Leon's dad's ashes are in there.
Yeah. But those aren't all of his ashes. Some of his ashes are at the South Pole.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. Yeah, so I wrote to the National Science Foundation in Arlington, Virginia. The Office of Polar Programs forwarded to McMurdo Station and then on to Amundsen Scott. And I had a little like plastic baggie of some of his ashes, and I said, scatter them at the South Pole, and they fucking sent me an email.
That's
Beautiful.
so awesome,
Yeah.
right?
Man.
So yeah, my dad's at the South Pole right now, and that's why I kind of wanted to do an article on where he lives.
How cool is
And you know
that?
what? In 80 million years, when Antarctica becomes the next like hot Pangea thing, like right in the center, maybe your dad will be used to fertilize some new plants.
I hope so.
Yeah.
That'd
Yeah.
be nice.
So research at the station includes glaciology, geophysics, meteorology, upper atmosphere physics, astronomy, astrophysics, and biomedical studies.
Cool.
In recent years, most of the winter scientists have worked for the Ice Cube Neutrino Observatory.
Oh.
Right?
Yeah.
Astronomers for generations have been looking at the sky, and of course we've done multi-wavelength, multi-energy astronomy. So we look in the optical, or we look in the infrared or the radio, or we can go to higher energies and look in the X-rays and gamma rays.
However, once you reach wavelengths as small as high-energy gamma rays, the sky is not transparent, it's opaque to light. So we know that there is at least 20% of the universe we have never seen.
And so multi-messenger astronomy, in particular neutrinos, using neutrinos instead of light or photons, has the promise of being able to look at energies well beyond what we can do optically.
Neutrino astrophysics is a very exciting field because neutrinos are so numerous out there, and they play an essential role in many phenomena like supernova explosions, or the formation of galaxies, or the life, birth and death of stars.
The neutrinos we see today come from sources going back to the beginning of the universe and come from throughout space.
Yet they are among the hardest to catch particles. And this poses the greatest challenge to an experiment that is actually searching for astrophysical neutrinos.
Ice Cube was the first experiment of a cubic kilometer in size that was able to see a diffuse astrophysical flux of neutrinos.
Nobody had ever built a kilometer cube detector, never mind a neutrino detector. And of course the motivation was to prove that it was large enough to see the cosmos in high energy neutrinos. And we indeed proved this was possible. So how did we do it? Well, it's interesting, the detector was already there. It's a block of ice, highly transparent. Blue light travels 100 meters to more than 200 meters throughout its volume. So it's what physicists call an ideal Cherenkov medium. It's shielded by 1.5 kilometers of South Pole ice, shielded from radiation at the surface in cosmic rays. So all we had to do was instrument it.
The construction of Ice Cube is a huge challenge, and it's a many-year effort. So, I mean, the first articles that were written about the possibility of Ice Cube were back in late 80s, early 90s, and we started construction in earnest in like 2003, 2004. And once you get into the construction mode, it's all about schedule. And in our case, the bottleneck was installation of instrumentation deep in the ice at the South Pole.
We filled this kilometer cube of natural Antarctic ice with 5,160 photosensors, which are basically 10-inch photomultipliers, which you buy in Japan. The real problem was to put them in the ice and to figure out how to read them out. And so we solved that problem. It took a while, but the ice cube is ticking like a Swiss watch right now.
They find neutrinos and photons there because the air is so very, very dry. Like it's a desert. It snows very little there.
Yeah.
And it's also so far south that it's out of the way of any electromagnetic interference from any other countries.
So no interference with water vapor because it's too cold to have any.
Exactly. So like the South Pole is geographically farther apart from any like running computers. And in the studies they have there, the main lab sits on stilts over in one part, and then several miles away is the Neutrino Observatory.
Cool.
And they've programmed it in the same way the noise-canceling headphone cancels out external noises. This observatory cancels out noises from the main base and only listens to neutrinos, which is cool because that's measuring cosmic background radiation, which is shit that emanated from the moment the universe was created.
Yeah.
And Antarctica, with the ice current experiments, are responsible for coming up with the most accurate timeline for the creation of the universe ever in human history.
Yeah.
We now know when the universe started, close to the 1,000th year.
Yeah.
Wow.
One millennium to the beginning of the universe, thanks to this experiment going on at the South Pole.
So hold on, I just want to...
Yeah,
that was incredible. My mind exploding.
Right.
And for those who don't, neutrinos are tiny subatomic particles, and they're so small and so fast that they hardly ever interact with normal matter. But once in a while, they hit normal matter, they make a little electromagnetic spark, and this ice observatory is there to observe that.
Yeah, it's
That's
pretty
so
sick.
neat.
Yeah, it's super cool. So observatory for low-frequency astronomy experiments, such as the South Pole Telescope and BICEP 2, basically they got huge-ass telescopes there.
Yeah.
And because there's zero light pollution, there's no one there. No one's making light pollution. All the lights inside the main station, they've got draws on the blinds. It's only red light. Like it is the darkest place on planet Earth.
Man, it's perfect observatory.
Exactly. And because it's on the South Pole, it's inside the southern Van Allen belt.
Oh.
And so the ionosphere is directly exposed to it. So from the South Pole, you can peer into the universe without the interference of the magnetosphere.
Oh, cool. It's like a little hole in our external atmosphere you can peek through, like a little keyhole.
You can look through it and literally see the birth of the universe.
That is
wild.
insane.
That is insane.
Yeah.
So like I said, the low temperature and low moisture content of the polar air, combined with an altitude of 8,999 feet, causes the air to be far more transparent on some frequencies than is typical elsewhere, and the months of darkness permit sensitive equipment to run constantly.
Yeah.
And they've got 7 months of darkness, so they can open up their telescope, point at one section of the sky, and leave the iris open for 7 months, which allows them to stare deeper into space than the Hubble Space Telescope.
Long-term exposure. Jesus. And like that's another reason why like global warming educators are so worried about Antarctica, is because all that elevation comes from thousands of feet of ice piled on top of solid land.
Yeah.
So there's a fuckload of ice resting on land.
Fear is mounting for the frozen continent, with new data today revealing the Antarctic ice sheets disappearing at a rate never seen before.
The results are quite shocking, really. As a scientist, whenever you see a system accelerating, it's a sign that maybe the brakes have come off. We're losing control a little bit.
Satellite images analysed by international scientists have shed new light on a dark few decades. 3 trillion tonnes of ice lost since 1992 through ocean-driven ice melt and ice shelf collapse.
3 trillion tons of ice. It's not a number that you can really wrap your head around. 8 millimeters of sea level equivalent doesn't sound like that much, but it's happening year on year, and it's getting faster.
Experts fear this new research points to a potentially catastrophic trend.
The funny thing about sea level rise is that it actually doesn't take much to start affecting you. The reason for this is that even with just 10 centimetres of sea level rise, we see a threefold increase in the amount of coastal flooding events.
Scientists say the damage done is irreversible and urgent actions needed to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, or millions of people living along low-lying coastlines could eventually be forced out.
People will have to either adapt by migrating if they can, or they're going to have to start investing in sea defence.
Several uninhabited Pacific islands have already been swallowed by the sea. The island of Kiribati, now one of the biggest concerns for experts as the coldest continent on Earth deals with a warming world.
So there's also a small greenhouse there. As you would when you're between fucking, you gotta tend the vegetables.
I mean, why not?
Yeah. So the variety of vegetables and herbs in the greenhouse, which range from fresh eggplant to, can I pronounce it jalapeno because I'm not Spanish? Is that okay? Like jalapeno peppers?
Yeah.
I'm calling them jalapenos because I don't speak Spanish. It would be rude of me
Is jalapeno, that's Spanish?
That's Spanish.
I had no idea.
Yeah,
well, I'm going straight back to jalapeno then.
Jalapenos.
Show.
Yeah, jalapenos.
Holy fuck, there's a cake.
Who brought a cake?
There's a cake. Okay, stand by. There's a cake. Daniel just brought a cake. Right, so jalapenos, all produced hydroponically using only water and nutrients and no soil.
Cool.
The greenhouse is the only source of fresh fruit and vegetables during the winter.
I mean,
unless you consider vagina a fresh vegetable, which I do.
Heyo.
I don't. I mean, if you're cold as fuck, you want to feel a little heat, so that makes sense.
Yeah. So the Amundsen Scott station.
Fuck the McMurdo station.
Fuck McMurdo. I've got they have an ice runway that's 12,000 feet long, which if you consider runways is really fucking long. You could land a space shuttle there, kind of long runway, and it's all ice. So between October and February, there are several flights a week from ski-equipped CC-130 Hercules aircraft that come from the McMurdo station.
They bring Hercs down there?
They bring Hercs. Hercs are on Hercs on skis.
Holy shit.
Holy shit.
And for those of you that haven't seen a Hercules, they're fucking big.
Yeah, they're real big.
It's like a big stuffed sausage with a wing and skis. A winged stuffed sausage.
A transport vessel, except it's bringing supplies to penguins, I suppose.
Yeah, additionally, there are some twin otters manufactured in Canada. And DC-3s that visit the base to support science and logistics. But everything that was ever built at the South Pole was flown in on the CC-130 Hercules.
Had to be.
And so everything the station is mounted on, I'm not sure, I don't know if I mentioned it later in my script, but I'll talk about it right now.
Well, any natural resources you could harvest are way below the ice. You couldn't use anything.
There's none of them.
Yeah.
So the first station that went up there was Amundsen Scott, and he stayed in a couple of tents. Then in 1950s, the Marine Corps sent in some Navy SEALs or whatever the fuck, I don't know, Army Corps of Engineers, whatever. So they built some shacks. And then by the 1970s, those shacks would be completely covered in ice because it just snowed on top of them. The snow never melts, so the ice pack just gets thicker.
Oh, yeah. Start turning into a little glacier, I suppose.
Right. Yeah. So in 1972, they built a giant geodesic dome and thought this is the shit. This is the way to do it. The dome itself was not heated, but under the dome, there were 2-story buildings and shit. They made everything under this giant dome.
Oh.
But by the end of the 1980s, the snow had piled up to the point where they were driving down a ramp into the front door of this dome, and half the dome was covered in ice.
Holy shit.
God.
So then in the 2000s, they're like, fuck, we can't do this. Now the dome's completely covered in ice. We can't get rid of the ice. It's been buried. So they dismantled it and built the current station, which is a giant facility that's on 30-foot columns, a bunch of them. There's 30 of these columns. Wow. They're 30 feet, and they sit on concrete piles. And the station has the ability to climb up above the ice. This massive multi-ton building can climb every so often up on top of new ice as it's laid down and continues to increase its elevation.
Holy.
So one pile at a time, they jack it up, jack up the next one, jack up the next one. And as ice comes underneath them, they continue to climb out of the snowpack.
Man,
that's cool.
And it's just a bunch, it's just the researchers and their assistants down there. So it's not like you have a bunch of contractors down there to do it for you. You gotta
Bunch of nerds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
So the dimensional cargo capacity of the Hercules, and we'll put a picture of it on the show page.
Oh, yeah.
Must be considered for all of the station's logistical support. Basically, if anything needs to go to the South Pole, it's got to fit in the Hercules.
Of course.
Because nothing else can go there. So the large scientific experiments and structures are broken down into modular pieces, reassembled on site. And the limitations and costs of the Hercules mean that they do some overland ice traversing. They've got these really crazy crawler machines that have got 3 wheels and super low pressure tires.
Oh.
Super, super low pressure tires. So it looks like they're flat while they're driving across the ice.
Just so they can get over like the little, like any icicles or
Yeah,
any
to
snow.
get as much traction, like studded tires, as much traction as possible, because it's minus fucking 80. So
Yeah.
tires freeze solid.
Oh,
so
yeah.
they have to have low pressure tires in order to work, or the tires would shatter.
Oh, that rubber would be hard as fuck.
It would be.
That's what she said.
They
God, how do you do that?
So the tires are such low pressure that sometimes they just float right off the rims. And the solution to fixing them is that they lay the rim down, put the tire around the rim, take WD-40, spray a bunch of WD-40 inside the tire, light it on fire, and the resulting explosion blasts the tire back onto the fucking rim.
Oh my God.
That's fucking metal. I love that. Yeah, yeah.
It's fucking metal.
Anything that incorporates explosions into like standard practice, I'm in favor of. So.
Yeah. So forbidding and remote, the South Pole is a uniquely and enormously valuable research site. The National Science Foundation manages it under their Office of the U.S. Antarctic Program and the Office of Polar Exploration. There are a bunch of really cool experiments that go on. And this is, like I said, the science is what really gets me.
Yeah.
Everything from cosmic observations like seismic and atmospheric studies. The ice on the South Pole moves around. So every few years they have to recalibrate the pole, pick up the pole, and stick it down where the new magnetic south, where the new true South Pole actually is.
Holy fuck.
Because the ice continues to drift in one direction, because
Yeah.
even at the bottom of the Earth, it's constantly moving glacier.
2013 pole marker, position of the planets on January 1st, 2013, viewed from South Pole, and the search for knowledge about our planet and out past our solar system. It's what we do at the South Pole. This year I wanted to return the marker to more of a traditional geographical marker and simplify the design. So rather than celebrating an event, it's back to marking the southernmost point on our Earth. As a result, this one has lots of pointy bits. This marker shows the positions of the planets as viewed from South Pole on January 1st, 2013. The 7 brass planets are displayed on a copper inlay. In the very center, a small copper star marks the South Pole and also represents the Earth sciences done from here as we reach out to understand our planet. The large brass star represents astronomy and astrophysics as it extends out past our solar system in the quest for knowledge. In the center of the marker, in brass, we have the sun, sunset, and moon with the Southern Cross, including the pointers. If you look carefully, the small inscription above the moon reads, "Accomplishment and Modesty." This was a reference to honor Neil Armstrong as he passed away while I was making this section with the moon. The small notches on the inner brass section stretch between day and night and represent all poles. Winter can be a tough haul, but it's the summer poles that make a winter possible. For those who still think Pluto should be a planet, you'll find it included underneath just to keep everyone happy. Bring back Pluto, I say.
As global warming continues to take effect, these glaciers have got less and less holding them in place. And so as they start to melt, they will actually accelerate exponentially, which will cause sea level rise. But the current Canadian government's not terribly interested in that.
Neither is
any other fucking government.
I was gonna say, don't worry, it's not a real thing. So it's
Yeah, we're 6 years away from unstoppable global collapse, but it's okay, guys. Fuck that.
That's why I'm like terrified about having children.
Yeah.
I don't want
I
to bring
know,
a
yeah.
child into this world when I know like
they're
our
not going to have a world.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, you know what's scary? People keep on saying like, "Oh, global warming," because we live in Saskatchewan. It's fine. Our area of the world is due to become a desolate desert if global warming keeps on advancing. Like we're going to be another like Sahara desert in the middle.
Seriously?
Oh yeah.
And how long are we looking? Am I going to be alive when that happens?
No, probably not.
I'm really hoping to have passed by the point when everything fucking.
You know what?
blows up.
There's a giant mine in Finland that's full of like radioactive nuclear waste.
Yeah.
I'm going there. I'm building a house nearby. It'll irradiate the rest of the global warming so it doesn't hurt me.
Yeah.
So like everyone can come.
Yeah.
Wow.
There
I'm
you
gonna
go.
come live in your house.
Bring your families. It's just out,
Bring your families, bring your friends, bring your
it's just
grandma.
outside Helsinki. It's going to be sweet.
That sounds lovely.
I mean, if we all get immortality, we'll be able to see the world destroyed before our eyes.
Get
That's something to look forward to.
Okay.
Yeah, that's something to look forward to.
So science has been integral to the mission of the South Pole Station since the first station was erected.
That's what she said.
There we go.
Sorry, I wasn't on my game.
Just wait.
Such a gentleman giving her the option there.
Yeah.
Was erected over the southern hemisphere in the summer of 1956 and 57. In some cases, records from the South Pole are among the longest continuous observational data sets available, including the record for carbon dioxide and other atmospheric gases at the South Pole. And the reason this works is super cool, is by the time atmosphere makes it to the South Pole, it's already mixed enough, the hot and the cold, that it's a fairly homogeneous mixture of air. Okay, yeah, so the cool thing about the South Pole and its temperature observations is that all the air at the South Pole has been mixed from air all the other places of the Earth. So the atmosphere is completely homogeneous at the South Pole.
Yeah.
So at the South Pole, they're able to record what's called the global average temperature. So they know at the South Pole exactly what the climate is around the Earth without any geographical bias.
Okay.
So
would it be cold?
It'd be very cold, but they can measure variations in the coldness.
Okay.
Yeah.
So as it gets warmer at the fucking cold pole, they can say the world is warmed by 1.5 degrees Celsius because it's warmed by 1.5.
It's a representative measurement.
Exactly, yeah.
Sweet. Okay, cool.
So in addition to the National Science Foundation, other U.S. government agencies, including NASA, NOAA, and the U.S. Geological Survey, also fund research at the pole. And keeping with the cooperative spirit of the Antarctic Treaty, scientists come to the pole from all other nations. And it's kind of like the International Space Station, but on ground, and it's colder than space.
Oh, of course.
So another cool thing is that when they're sitting at a fixed point where the Earth rotates, right? Because at the South Pole, there's no wobble. That point is stationary in space.
Yes.
Right? The axis is always pointing in one direction.
Because the North wobbles, right?
Yeah, which means the telescopes at the South Pole can track celestial objects for very long periods of time, years at a time. And so you can point this telescope at one star and spend 20 years absorbing light from it to get an incredibly high resolution image that the Hubble Space Telescope could not even fucking dream of.
Fuck!
Yeah, that's wild.
From what I understand, they've used South Pole research stations to catch like supernovas happening in real time, like day by day.
Yeah, absolutely. They've peered into the infancy of the universe because they can keep pointing at that direction without wobbling.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's very thin atmosphere there because it's cold and dry. So they get an unobstructed view. It's never cloudy at the South Pole.
Yeah,
Do you ever just feel dumb as fuck because you just learn things right now? I had no idea.
Me neither. I didn't know anything about Antarctica.
I feel like that when I learned about engineering because I'm like, okay, they figured out how to overcome this problem, like with just like making stuff and casting molds and all that. And I find that fucking amazing.
Yeah, so it's like some of these telescopes have made completely uninterrupted, and I mean uninterrupted by the millisecond for 100 hours.
Jesus.
Staring at one point in space for 100 hours.
Yeah.
And like I said, the Hubble Space Telescope revolves around the Earth every 92 minutes.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it doesn't even have a fucking chance of duplicating what the South Pole Telescope can do.
Holy shit.
In terms of universe selfies, Hubble hasn't beaten. In terms of like long-term studies of stars and planets and like all that, like the
South Pole takes it.
Yeah.
So if you want like a stable relationship, you go at the South Pole.
Yeah,
but if you want more of like a fucking truck flash in the pan kind of situation, you go with Hubble.
Go with Hubble. Or now the James Webb Space Telescope, which is going to be launched later next year and is 10 times the resolution of Hubble.
Whoa.
Oh yeah.
That's going to be a good like fucking Chuck telescope.
It's going to be a fucking Chuck telescope.
That's going to be a good summer love.
Yeah.
Go.
Validate me.
Yeah.
Validate me, global telescope.
The extremely dry, cold air at the pole is perfectly suited for observing the cosmic microwave background radiation, the CMB. Like I said, the radiation that was left over from the dawn of the universe, like when it was just an itty bitty baby, milliseconds after the universe was formed, and now the South Pole is observing this radiation flying around throughout space.
So neat.
Yeah. So the CMB is a faint light signature left by the Big Bang that brought the universe into being nearly 14 billion years ago.
Christ.
Which we now know is 13.8 billion years ago because research at the South Pole made us more accurate.
There you go.
Yeah, so the pattern of these ancient photons, the CMB, reveals that the contents and structure of the infinite cosmos. Astrophysicists know that the universe has been expanding since the Big Bang, but in the 90s, and only in the 90s, astronomers at the South Pole started using exploding stars as like a cosmic tape recorder for what happened. And they also have done a lot of research on the idea that dark energy pushes the universe apart, overwhelming gravity, because what it said, a very small percentage of what's in the universe is actually energy and mass. The other massive chunk of it is dark energy.
I forget the exact number, but it's less than 10%.
It's less than 10%, and dark energy is like the prime mover within the universe.
Dark energy is the name of my next like electro nu metal band.
But basically how they came up with that is that, like, using probably a lot of stuff from Antarctica, they measured all the movement and gravity in the universe, and then when they looked at their calculations, they're like, okay, we only have 10% of the matter we need to like have it do all the shit. Like,
we're seeing a lot of gravity that we can't account for with shit.
Yeah.
Cool.
So it was dark shit. They decided dark shit made up the other 90% of it. So dark energy pushes the universe apart, overwhelming gravity, and it's the attractive force exerted by all matter in the universe.
Awesome.
Exciting bit here. In 2007, the South Pole Telescope, which is fucking huge, like it's bigger than Hubble. It's a big motherfucking telescope.
Oh yeah.
I cannot like possibly impress upon you how big this thing. Like it's $19.2 million. Wow.
Yeah.
And it collected, in 2007, it collected its first observations and has been since gathering data about the accelerating nature of the universe.
Ooh.
So, I mean, like the things we're studying in Cambridge and Harvard is all numbers that came from the Edmondson Scott Research Station.
Yeah, because it provides clean, unobstructed data.
Yeah. So the $19.2 million telescope was funded primarily by the National Science Foundation with additional support from NASA. The telescope is 75 feet tall, 33 feet across, weighs 280 tons.
Wow.
It was assembled in Texas and then taken apart and then shipped across the Pacific Ocean to New Zealand and then flown in the Hercules to the South Pole on 190 different flights.
Wow.
And like I did a bit of reading a time ago, like how much intricacy it takes to like even do the lenses on those giant telescopes. Like they have to be in a clean room with zero dust, because if one little dust particle scratched the lens, it could alter things major. So imagine making that, flying it down to the South Pole, and getting it set up in sub-degree temperatures, and it works.
That's fucking crazy.
Yeah.
Astrophysics. So the South Pole Telescope is examining the universe on a galactic scale, which is another new and sort of equally impressive observatory they've set up that's searching for evidence of the existence of particles at a subatomic level, again, which can be best detected at the South Pole because they have a thin atmosphere, it's dry, and they get a free flow of neutrinos from the universe.
Sweet.
Cool.
So built in, and this is another cool experiment. Built into the ice sheet, like sunk deep in, it's a 1 cubic kilometer big ice cube neutrino observatory.
Oh yeah.
And it records the rare collision of neutrinos, which are those elusive subatomic particles, with the atomic nuclei of water molecules on the surface.
Yeah. And as you guys know, like water molecules are 99% empty space, so when you're shooting a neutrino, there's a very small chance of it hitting the nucleus.
It's very rare, but they find it a lot at Antarctica, as well as in some like very, very, very deep mines elsewhere in the world where the neutrinos come from the center of the Earth. Some neutrinos come from the sun, while others come from cosmic rays interacting with Earth's atmosphere, and a dramatic astronomical source such as exploding stars in the Milky Way and other distant galaxies. Trillions with a T of neutrinos stream through the human body at any given moment, but they rarely interact with regular matter. And so researchers want to know more about them and where they came from, and the South Pole is where they find them unobscured by anything else.
Yeah, and for those of you out there, like you have millions of neutrinos per second passing through you, but your body probably is only interacting with a tiny, tiny fraction of them.
Yeah. So in December of 2010, they drilled 86 holes 2 kilometers into the ice, which is fucking deep.
Oh, yeah.
That's what she said.
Yeah.
Look, you get me every time. I'm surprised every time. I don't know how you do it.
Okay, so anyway, so they dug all these fucking holes. They buried some sensors in there. It cost $242 million to do this whole ice cube project.
Holy shit.
And they're learning tons of shit about it.
We're unlocking the secrets of the universe. It's worth it.
Yeah, oh, for sure.
I'd agree.
And like people say, oh, you're throwing money at science, but all that money is going towards engineering firms and towards like people that develop the technology and create the parts. Like all that money is going to business and industry at some point.
Oh, totally. So talking about like air and ozone and climate, the pristine quality of the air at the pole, and it's very clean air. There's no pollution there. Makes it ideal for measuring changes in the quantity and composition of the atmosphere elsewhere.
Oh, yeah.
Because when things like when a butterfly takes a shit in Africa, Antarctica is the one that eventually feels the shit coming off and can measure.
That's different than I've heard it other times.
Yeah, so they've
Because
been.
I've heard that before, but not worded quite that way.
When a
butterfly shit?
When a butterfly shits in Africa, the South Pole Observatory observes it. So they started doing this in 1957, which was the International Geophysical Year, and that's when they built the first Navy base there.
Yeah.
Since 1957, they've been keeping a complete record of absolutely everything that's happened every year without interruption. They also release weather balloons a couple times a day to look at the ozone layer. The South Pole experiments were why we first found out there was a hole in the ozone layer. And then we fixed it, which was really cool, by banning chlorofluorocarbons. And we can fix climate change if we did the same thing, if it just took like some fucking political will.
Yeah.
And people not bending over the dicks in their asses.
Yeah. And
What's a fluorochlorocarbon?
Fluorochlorocarbon are CFCs, like shit from your old air fresheners.
Mhm.
It was used as a propellant in spray cans before butane took over.
Also in a lot of air conditioning equipment.
Air conditioning equipment, and it's also in halon fire extinguishers.
Yeah, and they basically they split ozone into O2, so they deplete the ozone layer.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So something else cool. Have you heard of an earthquake?
Yes.
Have you heard of an ice quake?
No. That sounds terrifying.
There's ice quakes.
Oh, fuck.
8 kilometers from the Amundsen Scott South Pole Station, the U.S. Geological Survey are recording shudders from earthquakes around the world.
Whoa.
Wow.
That as these earthquake waves sort of pulsate across the planet, they reach the South Pole at the same time. And there's the U.S. Geological Survey has instruments there that, for example, during the Fukushima earthquake, they detected it 13 hours later by like a micrometer movement on the ice at the South Pole.
Wow.
And that's because like even solid rocks are less susceptible to crushing than water is. Like water does not like to be crushed. That's why hydraulic power works so well. So any force would be felt by that giant ice cube on the South Pole pretty well.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy, and like they've got this. The thing is called SPRESSO, the South Pole Remote Earth Science Observatory.
When they shut that down, it'll be an espresso. Yeah, there we go.
Zing. Anyway, so it's got some really like sensitive seismometers there that are listening to the planet. They've got instruments that are buried 1,000 feet into the ice.
Christ.
Yeah, it's pretty deep, and because ice vibrates more readily than solid Earth, they're able to pick up really faintly different seismic activities. So, for example, in Mexico, there may be a magnitude 0.001% earthquake that Mexico would never feel. But that Antarctica would pick
They
up.
pick it up there. That is so crazy.
It's like that cup of water on the dash of Jurassic Park.
And by measuring the amount of time it takes for the shock wave to go straight down from Mexico to the pole and all the way over the North Pole, around and back down to the South Pole, they can determine to the millisecond when that earthquake occurred.
Oh, man. They'd probably be able to geolocate it too.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, like the instruments they have buried in the ice, they've got polar observatory satellites that zip around, measure the difference between the instruments and the satellites, and can determine exactly what's happened somewhere else in the world.
Yeah. Whoa. So we have millions of hours of people power, like thousands of degrees, like billions of dollars being spent, but Trump has a real instinct for science. So.
Sure does.
Yes,
Isn't there that picture where he's like staring directly into a solar eclipse?
into the solar eclipse. Oh, wasn't that just
And he's like, quite bright.
Oh, that was beautiful.
Yeah. Okay, guys, that's all I've got for Antarctica.
Hey guys, Leon Filger. Since we recorded the Antarctica episode, some shit went down near the South Pole. On the 27th of October, there were 2 Russians at a research station called Bellingshausen. Apparently, they were both avid readers, and the station was fully stocked with books. The problem was, one of them was a fucking asshole and kept spoiling the endings to all the books for the other Russian. Well, that Russian got pissed off, so he stabbed the book spoiler in the stomach with a knife. Both of them got evacuated. I guess the fellow who got stabbed is going to be okay. The other fellow's in jail in Argentina or some shit like that. So, moral of the story, don't stab people over books. The second thing is something that I forgot to mention when we recorded the episode, and that's a phenomenon called Antarctic fever. And basically what it's caused by is being stuck at the South fucking Pole for too goddamn long with nothing to do. And it makes you go insane and stab people. So if you're at the South Pole for too long, bring like your Nintendo DS, make sure to masturbate plenty, but keep yourself busy so you don't stab people. Leon Filger out.
That was beautiful.
That's fucking fascinating.
Yeah, I liked that one.
Thank you. All right, for Occultae Veritatis podcast, my name is Leon Filger.
Sage Murray.
Ood Gallifrey.
And in studio with us.
I'm Steph.
Good night.
Love you. Bye.
I'm going to go with an old phonograph tune from the 1920s for our palate cleanser. It is Lucille Hegeman and the Dixie Daisies with their song, Cold Winter Blues. See you in the after show. Welcome back once again with the after show. Ood Gallifrey.
Sage Murray.
Leon Filger.
Once again, we got some more emails, but these ones are a bit more special because they give feedback on our R. Kelly episode.
Oh, fun.
Okay, I'm going to read the first one. So this is from Michael W. on R. Kelly. Okay. Thank you for putting out quality material. It makes my commute and workday go by a lot faster. I've never been a fan of R. Kelly, but two of my favorite films of all time, Seven and The Usual Suspects, both star Kevin Spacey. I'm not sure where the line is, but it's a conversation that needs to be had since it looks like for generations Hollywood has been run by abusers and enablers. Anyways, just a thought, looking forward to the next episode. What's your guys' thoughts on that?
Well, I think that Kevin Spacey is a garbage person.
Yeah.
But like, The Usual Suspects is a fucking good movie.
Yeah.
I think Kevin Spacey in American Beauty is as creepy as Kevin Spacey is in real life.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I think like no one should be surprised.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of a line you have to draw. Like there's some people who have done things that are so heinous that I can't separate their acts from their art. I cannot enjoy their art with knowing their acts have happened. And there's other people that I can enjoy their work while compartmentalizing, once again, drunk, like my disdain for them and my enjoyment. One example of that is the comedy of Louis C.K. I think Louis C.K. personally is a reprehensible person, but I still find jokes of his funny. Mm-hmm. And, you know, at the end of the day, if he's not making money off albums that I've already purchased from him before I knew about the abuse and I need a little cheering up, I'm not going to deny myself that. Mm-hmm. But that's just my very personal view.
Yeah, sometimes it's tough to separate the artist from the art. And I know I personally have a very hard time doing that. So I just basically cut off people who are garbage people.
Yeah.
I still find Louis C.K. funny, and I feel like a shit person for it.
Yeah.
But I can't help what I find funny. Like, I mean, he's a shit person. I mean, kudos to him for admitting immediately that he'd been jerking off at people.
Yeah.
It's better than Bill Cosby denying it.
Yeah.
I mean, still, you don't jerk off at people without their permission.
Yeah.
If they say, yeah, go for it. Jerk off as many people as you want if they're cool with it, but don't randomly jerk off at people.
Yeah.
That's mean.
I definitely think it's a case-by-case basis. Like, I don't think any one general guideline will cover anything. Okay. Next up, another one about R. Kelly.
All right, so this is from Anonymous. I just wanted to note that while the story of R. Kelly and his bizarre harem thing is off-putting, in another scenario, i.e. one that doesn't have someone who has assaulted minors already, if everyone had given informed consent, this kind of behavior isn't unheard of. In D's/dominant and submissive relationships. I definitely know couples who have had restrictions on washroom usage, getting permission, food restrictions, i.e. you can eat an Oreo, you have to clean for X long, etc. I don't think the women described, even the adult ones, provided informed consent. It certainly doesn't sound like scenarios they would have been informed about beforehand, and the inability for them to contact other people is highly concerning. Mm-hmm. But the restrictions and terms such as daddy aren't unheard of on their own. 100% I agree.
Oh, yeah.
If everyone is a consenting adult, like, have at her.
Yeah, and I think it's an important distinction. Like, actions don't matter as much as context.
Right.
So, like, you know, hitting someone can be an evil act, but if it's a consensual act that both parties agree to, that both parties know the risks of, then it can be totally enjoyable.
Yeah, like, okay, for instance, if some random person were just to come out, run up behind me and pull my hair, that would be assault.
Oh, yeah.
But if Mr. Sage Murray would be like, hey, do you want me to pull your hair? And I'd be like, fuck yes, pull my hair. That would be hot as hell.
Yeah, rev the engine.
Yeah, like it's completely different.
Shit on my face.
Yeah, even if you're shitting on people's faces. Like, that's not my thing, but if it's your thing, then cool.
It's not my thing.
Plop, plop.
Just to be clear.
Yeah.
And if you're in a consenting adult relationship, then off you go.
Yeah.
As long as you're not hurting anyone.
Yeah, couldn't agree more.
Yeah, so I definitely agree with Anonymous on that email.
Yeah. Finally, from Kate M. Quote, hey, y'all. I love you guys. Thanks for producing... I'm drunk. Thanks for producing such great content. I don't know if this is the right place to suggest an episode topic, but I'm about to ask anyway. I'd love to hear what you guys think of the Silent Twins, June and Jennifer Robles.
Oh, okay, those guys are cool.
Yeah.
I'm fascinated by their story, and I'd love to hear your insights about what the fuck was going on with the Robles twins, particularly in terms of their psychology. Thanks. Keep up the good work.
Or just twins in general. There's a lot of interesting twins.
We're having an identical twins episode. We've got two... Not from the same set of twins. We have two individual people who are identical twins who are going to be on the show, and we're doing an episode on identical twin myths and whatnot.
Kick ass.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Nice. Again, thank you so much for sending us stuff to talk about and think about and keeping that conversation going. You know, I really like that we're starting to build a community where we can have some real back and forth about things.
100%.
Yeah, so even if you feel apprehensive, send us an email at ovfeedback@gmail.com or send us a voicemail at speakpipe.com/ovpod.
Yeah, you guys, we're super chill.
Yeah.
I'm pretty chill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if we don't like your email, we probably just won't read it. So,
No, I'll read it, even if I don't like it.
Yeah, sorry, Sage will read everything.
I'll read anything. Send me whatever you want.
Yeah, send Sage everything.
I consent to it.
Yes. With the after show, I'm Ood Gallifrey.
Sage Murray!
Leon Pilger.
Good night.
Love you. Bye.
Cheers.